So I want to know, what has been your impression as an African from Kenya traveling across Africa, especially your visit to Ghana? What has been your impression? General impression, then business-wise impression.
So basically, first I'm just happy. I'm just happy to be on the continent, to visit other parts of the continent. So my name is Mibwari from Kenya. Grew up in Kenya. I live in the US now, but Kenya is home. And over the last 10 years, I've made a deliberate effort to visit as many African countries as possible.
Wow.
Because I realized that I had seen a lot of countries in other parts of the world, in North America, in Europe, but I had not seen my continent enough. So I made a deliberate decision that every year I would visit at least an extra African country.
Every year?
Every year.
How many have you visited so far?
I think I'm at around 17, 18 now. Some years I'm lucky, I do like 3 countries. Like last year I did the Victoria Falls Marathon, which is Zambia, Zimbabwe. But I also went to Botswana because it's a short drive away. So that's the background of why I'm traveling. I don't have a particular specific mission. I just want to see the continent and appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because I realized that we have so much goodness on the continent. And I don't want to just say wealth. I don't just want to say like,
it's wealth in disguise, I think.
Yeah, but it's just goodness. Including goodness of people, generosity, welcoming. And this continent has 54 countries. And my hope is that I see all of them before I die.
You will?
Hopefully much sooner, actually.
You've already done 18, so
I'm at a third.
Barely getting half. And
I've done a third without money. So maybe someday when I have money, you know. Anyway, so that's the background. For Ghana in particular, I've been here 9 days now, and it's been fantastic.
You love it here?
I feel at home. I feel welcomed. I feel comfortable everywhere. The food is amazing.
Lovely.
My first meal here was jollof and goat and plantain.
Have you tried the Nigerian one as yet?
I will not get into that fight. I would just say that in places that I live outside the continent, when Nigerians and Ghanaians are fighting, I cheer them on because I keep eating. They fight, they cook, I eat.
I'm asking because you brought in the jollof.
Let me just say, the jollof I've had this week has been amazing.
Amazing. Nice.
So, I mean, the food is fantastic. The people are very welcoming. And then I've gotten a chance to travel. I went to, I was based in Accra for most of my time here, but I went to Kakum National Park, did the canopy walk. But in addition, I did an extra hike in the forest.
Okay.
Guided tour, identifying the trees, the history behind some trees, some myths, medicinal plants being shown, different roots and stems and twigs and what they cure, including asthma and headache, and then
the castle experience.
Yes. So after Kakum, we drove to Elmina Castle, and I think it was like 45 minutes, something like that. And the castle obviously has a lot of history. A lot of it's sad.
Do you have castles in Kenya? Was there slavery in Kenya like it was in Ghana?
We do have one well-known fort.
Okay.
It's called Fort Jesus in Mombasa.
Jesus?
Fort Jesus.
Was harboring slaves?
Can you imagine that?
It was harboring slaves?
You go and pray to this God who's supposed to be like loving and forgiving. and you keep people in chains and sell them for
underneath
cash.
in the dungeon.
Right. So it's called Fort Jesus in Kenya, which is the same contradiction in Elmina, because in Elmina there's a Catholic church on the ground floor
of
the castle.
The castle where the
Portuguese built it. And just next door there's like male slave dungeons, female slave dungeons, and one particular dungeon without any ventilation is where the African men who are going to be punished by death would be put.
Those who resisted,
and once you die, they tie a stone to you and throw you in the water. Next to it was a holding cell for European soldiers who misbehaved. And he has ventilation, he has some light. So I think they misbehaved by maybe getting drunk or whatever. And the two are next to each other. And then a lot of other painful stories about women
being tortured,
and the governor lived on the top floor. They have a mansion on the top floor of the castle with a living room, a dressing room, a dining room, a kitchen. And
I've been there
because they didn't have their spouses with them. Every so often, the governor would come to his balcony and look down into
the pretty ones amongst them,
and they would ask the soldiers or whoever to take out all the women and the African slave women, and he would pick the one he liked, and she would be shown up through some secret stairway, led through a trap door into the governor's mansion, and they would get raped.
I'm getting emotional.
And apparently, if the woman resisted, they would be sent back down, and they would have like a cannonball weighing 25 kilograms tied to both legs and held outside in the scorching sun for hours as a way of punishment, and also to deter the other women from resisting.
So amongst the countries you've visited so far, which of them is the most on your heart? Not Kenya. Kenya is definitely home, like your place of birth. So aside that, the 17 other African countries, which of them stands out in terms of everything? If you were to rank them.
I have very different feelings in all these countries I've been to in Africa.
Put all together for me.
No, I mean, there's no straight answer to your question, but I'll just say the things I've felt in different countries. Tanzania and Uganda are very close to Kenya culturally, economically. So for the most part, I feel like I'm in a different part of Kenya. Just slight differences in language. So Tanzania is beautiful, tourism, the coastline. But
Zanzibar.
And Tanzania is very socially cohesive, which I really like. But it's a lot like Kenya in many ways compared to like West Africa. So nothing profound there. South Africa was very touching because, again, of the history of suffering and how people were able to overcome it. But South Africa, again, is mixed feelings. I feel pride in the people overcoming adversity, but there's still a lot of work to be done because the country, people are still not free. And sadly, there's attitudes that are xenophobic against other Africans, which is really sad to think of because Mandela traveled on an Ethiopian passport for many years. Tanzania and Zambia and Malawi, all these countries help South Africa.
So Ghana is the only West African country.
No, I've been to Cote d'Ivoire.
Cote d'Ivoire, okay.
Cote d'Ivoire, and I don't know if Cameroon counts as West Africa, but
I don't know where this
is. Let's call it Central Africa, but they have some West African attributes.
Yeah.
So I've been to Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, and Ghana, and of the West African countries, Ghana now is my biggest experience. The longest I've stayed is Ghana.
Oh, okay.
And what I've really felt here is the pride in the history of the country. The kingdoms, and people have this sort of pride in their dress, pride in their artifacts and art, of course, food. And yesterday I went to the Manshia Palace Museum, and I could tell from the guide showing us around that the people, or at least most people, their Asante adored their king, and just reading about
not most, everyone.
Yeah, right. And right. And just that pride of people wanting to fight for their king when he was exiled in Seychelles and Sierra Leone again, but the terrible people at Elmina, the same people, and people would walk on foot from the Asante area in the area surrounding Kumasi. They went on foot to Elmina, but that's not even far. When the king was sent to Sierra Leone, people went on foot to Sierra Leone. And then the British realized that
they need to take them away from here.
The Asante would go anywhere they could as long as their king was there. So they took him overseas to Seychelles, because at that time the Asante were not seafaring. So then they realized, Seychelles is far enough that, but that was not the end of the story. The British, fortunately, did not get hold of the golden stool.
Yeah, they wouldn't. They couldn't.
So even though the king was exiled, blah, 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 people were killed and imprisoned, at the end of the day, the victory was Ghana's, because they kept their pride. They used the wisdom of the women and men to, play a trick on the British.
That's it. You cannot be on my channel without talking about business. Your visits across Africa, 18 countries so far.
Yeah.
We need to get going to get a flight, right?
It's okay. We can leave in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have you seen in terms of business? Like, how can we improve intra-African trade? What are some of the business opportunities you've seen in Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, that are not in Kenya, the ones that you saw in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, that are not in West Africa? How do we, make money for ourselves by ourselves?
I guess the obvious one is food. I've just been told that this coffee is coming from America, but
let me have a look at it.
America doesn't grow
coffee.
Right? Coffee, it's probably Ethiopian or Kenyan.
How can you buy a coffee in Ghana, which is from America?
Right? So that's an obvious one. Like, Kenya is just 5 hours flight away. This resort should be getting its coffee from Kenya or Ethiopia. That's one. A lot of food is being imported into Ghana, whereas Africa has a lot of arable land. I'm just imagining about the thousands of hectares that are arable, fertile, and they are unfarmed across, East and Southern Africa, and even West and Central Africa. If we just had good infrastructure for transportation, Ghana should not be importing all this wheat and rice from, outside the continent. I think even Ghana itself can produce most of what it needs. And if they're unable to, at least get it from Africa. So that's one. I think it will require a very deliberate, well-planned, long-term, plan, but it's possible and it's doable. And there's a huge gap there. So that's one. In terms of technology, which is up my alley, I think Africa in general, we have a lot of work to do, but I think we can learn lessons from each other. So I'm glad to hear that Ghana already has a vibrant mobile money industry, which has made a big difference in Kenya, which was the leader in this area. But my feeling is that maybe Ghana is 5 or so years behind Kenya. So maybe there's something
in terms of
innovations on top of mobile money, not just P2P transfers, but wider payments ecosystem, lending, for example. I think it's not very big in Ghana yet.
How do you see AI, as that's your area where you are doing your PhD in? How do you see AI impacting jobs in Africa in the next 10 years?
It's not an easy question because I think, okay, AI will create some jobs and it will eliminate others.
Okay.
It will also modify a lot of jobs.
Mm.
A lot of the jobs that will be modified or eliminated by AI are not low-level manual jobs. Probably like middle-level clerical jobs.
Mm.
And maybe not so much the high-end, super skilled, medicine, surgery jobs yet.
How do we as Africans get involved?
So I think we have to invest a lot in education because our universities need to really have good teaching and good research. And the reason why I think research is important is because we can hyper focus on challenges that are particular to Africa.
Okay.
For example, the burgeoning youth, population, which in theory should be a blessing but can be a curse. So really focus on solving problems that affect the youth, but more importantly, get them involved in first educating them, but also in building solutions, for their towns. It could be in commerce. It could be in agriculture. For example, AI can be used for automatic disease detection in crops. Imagine large-scale farming of cassava or cocoa or coffee. Or like winemaking, which is something I'm attempting.
Yeah, you said it. I did not been we catching your flight in the next hour. I would have asked you to throw more light on the wine business you started in Kenya. Yeah. Yes, how is it going? And how long have you been in business?
Yeah, so it's really a hobby. It's not a business yet.
Yes.
I hope it'll become a business soon, but it's very promising so far. We had our first crop harvested in October. We pressed our wine, 2 varieties, a red Barbera and a white Sauvignon Blanc. And I've had a bunch of tastings in December. People loved the wine. That's what they told me. So I'm hoping this year's crop will have even a bigger harvest and have a lot more to taste in.
Have you sold any?
I've not sold any.
Just they did a testing.
The first harvest in Africa in general, you give it away as a blessing.
Okay.
So this year I've been giving it away to friends.
The entire harvest.
It wasn't a lot.
Okay.
It wasn't a lot. So, but I'm actually increasing the acreage.
Okay.
Because of how good the fruit was, how good the wine is. This year I plan to increase the acreage and the variety. But more importantly, I'm combining my wine growing with safari tourism. We are 5 minutes from Meru National Park, which is the best park for bird variety in East Africa.
Okay.
But also
bird variety.
Bird variety. But in addition, it has the Big Five, and it's not over toured. So it's pristine. It's a beautiful park. Everyone should visit it. I want to encourage Ghanaians and Africans in general to come to Kenya. Safari is amazing, obviously, but come to Meru National Park. Come stay with me at my vineyard/camp, and you'll have a great time. We love to host people. We love to welcome people. And I hope we learn we learn from each other so we can make Africa prosperous and happier.
Nice one. So where are you now? We are at Lake Bosomke in Ghana.
In Ghana, it's like an hour and a half from
Kumasi.
My friend Showers brought me here. Again, part of network of friends. And it's been an amazing trip so far, and I'm really, really appreciative. And I encourage other Africans to come see Ghana and Kenya and other African countries.
Thank you very much, Eric, for appearing on my channel. I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
No, thank you.
I can't thank you much.
Thank you.